Alex, answer here. It is February 19th in the year 2019. Supermoon effects. Will the full moon make you crazy tonight? What is lunar lunacy? And so we're going to be talking about this article, and I'm going to be sharing some additional thoughts with you. A supermoon spectacle tonight will light up the night skies with the brightest full moon glow of the year, but could the supermoon have the side effect of driving you mad tonight? Now, what about the establishment that controls our president? Creating national emergencies during key periods in the timeline. And I also want you to look back at the events of Charlottesville in 2017, at the phase that the moon was in as they marched, and the phase the moon was in as they came back, and the phase the moon was in during key violent protests or clashes in Portland, Oregon. Now, it's not limited to that, but we can see the effects of the full moon, the bloody moon, on elements of our community, and I can see things manifest on cue in the news. So they're the things that unconsciously take place, subconscious reactions to the intensity and the magnification of the emotions, even more so if there is a geomagnetic storm as the moon is full or at its fullest of the year. That's when you have a massive, intense level of energy. It's both masculine and feminine. And instead of being like diverted into this wickedness, this fear, this anger, we need to be taking this knowledge higher. One of the things that I'll suggest is that we focus very strongly tonight on our own success as we barrel through 2019. However you see that. There are people that do readings, sometimes for a large group of people at once, and there are people that focus on relationships and other things in the world of astrology, and that's okay. That's for them. But with regards to this conversation on this platform, we talk about a lot of current events taking place in our world. And I try to teach you, as well as I try to condition myself as well, to become more disciplined, to become aware of what's in the newswire. As we deal with these things that are taking place, the things that are going on within ourselves, we may be quiet for a number of days, and then we may start speaking about the things that matter, making phone calls, trying to clarify things, trying to move things forward, evaluating our life, what we need to change, what we need to leave in the past, and what we need to do to move forward. Of course, as I move forward to my 39th birthday in a couple of days, in 6 days, facing 39 years old, 1 year away from the big 4-0. As we get started, just a little bit of a opening chit chat. NASA outline: what makes a supermoon super? The supermoon approached the Earth early this morning, just after 9 a.m. GMT, 2 hours after moonset in the UK. As the moon moved out of sight just below the horizon, it neared its so-called point of perigee. Perigee is the moon's closest orbit of the Earth, meaning that the full moon tonight is bigger and brighter than usual. But tonight's supermoon is particularly interesting because it is the biggest full moon to grace the skies this year. I'm going to be bringing Solar Max news into greater levels of activity as we come out of the solar minimum, and it may not be, despite the predictions of others, I hope they haven't bet their last dollar, of a grand solar minimum. No, the sun will return again. As we look deeper into this, and supermoons like this are often associated with paranormal stories, bizarre myth, and folklore. Other revelation about this world right now and where people are at, there is a very sharp rise in the occult taking place with the far right. And there's a subtle awareness of this. Not all see the significance, not all believe in the paranormal. And so there is a paranormal overtone to the artificial rise of the right. The symbols, the cross on the crest, symbols of protection that they use during key periods in which they hope to be successful. Well, the question is, what do we do? How do we also tap into those elements, tap into the cross, tap into something higher? And I would even say, instead of playing around with these deities, seek to serve the ultimate creator of all that is. Because here on earth, there's a number of different energies that humans are working with. And the danger in partaking in rituals and calling out to certain entities and deities is that they can turn on you. And you have to ask yourself the question, is it worth it to mess around with the big guns without knowing that those guns will also be turned on you? And so rise above the archetype worship, rise above the external saviorship theology, and looking for the collective shift in consciousness. We have to find that within ourselves. There is a wake-up taking place on our planet, but for whatever reason, on a physical level, on a geographic level, we have been divided. And maybe that is simply so, that small light within us, our solar plexus, our sun within our body, so that it can grow to monumental heights out of the desperation of the spirit, surrounded by darkness, having to literally go within its own nuclei all the way into the micro in order to ignite that which is already within. Enough power within you that can keep you warm in a snowstorm. Everything that you need in your equipment is already within you. The path to the ultimate truth and place of power still lies within. And so this is a period in which our whole lives should come before our very eyes, and things should come up for reflection. If you have any music that you would like to contribute, or if you just want to make some music, feel free to contact me. Just send some stuff. Royalty free is always key, and what we can use here on YouTube. One of the most interesting alleged side effects of a supermoon full moon is the claim that the larger than usual moon triggers increased feelings of lunacy, the so-called lunatic lunar lunacy curse, sometimes dubbed the Transylvania effect, is a well-documented disorder associated with full moons. Some people like to troll more on full moons. Some people like to fight more on full moons. Some people maybe like to out on full moons. Be careful what you tap into, and understand maybe there's a reason why we feel what we feel. Sometimes there are some things in which a surge of emotion is okay because some elements of our life, there needs to be something expressed. There needs to be some sort of expression of that which needs to be said in order to move something forward. And being aware of this, though, and not just being completely taken over by the emotions of the full moon, that's where we need to be. Because if we're not in a centered place, the vibrations and the intensities of the full moon, combined with, you have to think also about what others are going through. So as others are flipping out, as others may be attacking, or as others may be running energy or suffering from something, or just at a certain level, we have to be careful how much of other people's stuff we take on. And that's something that people aren't taught in this world. Events are manufactured. They declare particular emergencies during certain periods in the timeline. Wars beginning, wars ending, things of that nature. Major talks of things like civil war. And if only we can just put on the glasses and like something out of They Live, if only we could see those parasites that feed on us. During these periods in which these world events are moved forward like tanks or like pieces on a chessboard, the chessboard of life, the chessboard of this matrix. And we're in a matrix. We see the tides of the moon, the phases of the sun having dominance over our lives. But yet at the same time, there's a spiritual component. There is purpose in having feelings and waking up and certain things stirring within us that have been buried. Certain things should rise to the top and be faced in the dark of night, in a cave, however it's done. There are those elements of our shadow self that has to be looked at. Elements of our own narcissism, our own ego, our own limited state that's bound to this world. We have to go beyond the materialism. We have to go beyond these certain fears of what this world would do to us if we were to go into full activation mode. And some of us have been facing these fears on a primitive, deep level every minute of every hour of every day because of the threat that we faced in this physical world where blood is already being spilled and threats of more to come, all based on people not getting in line politically. Is this not the dark side rising? And we can also become afraid when we see how dark it actually goes, as we see the patterning of certain protests, certain behaviors in crime news during periods of the full moon. And it's like, what's going to be happening the next couple of days? Only time will tell. So whether or not someone has a breakdown or a breakthrough during the full moon is really up to you. That's what we have there. We also look in the direction of this article from the Mirror. After weeks of anticipation, the biggest supermoon of 2019 will finally light up skies around the world tonight. Supermoons have been linked to many myths and legends throughout the years, including werewolves, fertility, and even mania, as I continue. Because what are you tapping into at this moment? And what am I? It is the depths that the vampire class of our species has sunken its fangs into our collective body. There are elements of all people, of all ethnicities, that are waking up at this time. And there are also elements of darkness also seen in various ethnicities around the world. And the biggest lie is that the battle of light and dark is being fought through the skin tone of those that are alive in the world today. That is the king of all lies. But yet there really would be a contrast between what you could even call souls that are on their way upwards and those that are on their way downwards, or those that are in human form that might as well have animal souls that aren't even at a certain level of evolution. And what we're seeing right now is a divide in consciousness, and it cannot so easily be demonstrated left versus right. Now, one can see it in certain dynamics, but that's only if the people in that geographical area allow themselves to be energetically divided into duality in that specific form. Then we can see the media play on that sense of the clash of duality and the battle of light and dark. But there's other ways in which this is manifesting and taking place within our lives, our relationships, our goals and dreams, where we were in the previous phase of our life and where we're going. In order to really make that great leap forward on the individual spiritual path, consciousness, we got to step back from that duality and that fight from the controlled opposition. And we got to be busy doing the internal work that we came here or returned here to do. Because maybe we're only going to be in this body once. Who knows what's beyond this? But there's a lot of work that came into keeping us alive and to this point in the timeline. What is a supermoon and how does it affect us? And so these are things to think about as we see our world seemingly at the brink. Remember, before you blow up, consider the power of redirecting all of that angst to having a breakthrough.